Have you ever noticed that when you fold cardstock in one direction, it folds easily and you get a nice crease, but when you fold it the other direction, it's more difficult? Paper expert Phil Schumacher has explained it very nicely. When paper's made, the paper fibers are quite long and they tend to end up in the direction the paper machine is moving. It's similar to the way logs line up in a river when they're floated down a river. So when we translate that analogy of the logs to paper, it's like the long paper fibers are like pencils that line up in the direction that the paper was moving when it was made. And if you imagine folding your paper parallel to the way the pencils are, then you can see you can fold it pretty easily. But if you try to fold it against the direction that the pencils are lying in, then you can see you would have to break the pencils in order to make that fold. So what that means is when you fold against the grain, against these pencils, you're going to get a messier fold than when you fold with the grain. So let me just show you with the paper without the pencils. I think you can see this pretty easily, and you can try it yourself with your own cardstock. When I fold this direction, it's stiffer than when I fold this direction. I'm using the same amount of force here as I am here, and it just flexes more easily. So that tells me that the grain is running this direction. The most typical size card that we make is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which happens to be exactly 1/2 sheet of 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock. And that's probably why it's so common, because you can get 2 full cards out of 1 piece of cardstock. To cut your card base, you just are going to cut along the length at 5 1/2, and that'll give you your 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 sheet. Then when you fold it in half with the grain, you're going to get the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. Now, a variation on this size card is to fold it in a way that it will open like this. And when you do that, if you've cut it from an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of cardstock, you're going to be folding against the grain, because this is what's parallel to the length of the original piece of cardstock. And if your pencils are like this, you're going to be folding against those pencils. So that means that when you make a card that way, you want to be sure to score it before you fold it to get as clean a fold as possible. Now, even this fold, which was against the grain, when you compare it to this fold that was with the grain, is not as clean. So here's the, I don't know if you can see this. And so there's the fold against the grain made with a score line. Here's a fold with the grain, also made with a score line first. I tend to make a score line before I fold my card base anyway, just because I like getting things even and just because it turns out cleaner. So if I were to fold this against the grain without scoring it, let me show you what happens. You can see it doesn't know exactly where to fold, and so you get a really messy fold because it had to break these fibers before it could lay down. Now, how does this work with 12 by 12 paper? It's not so obvious which way the grain runs. So the way you tell is, again, you just flex it and see how easy. Now that's got quite a bit of resistance, and that has very little. So that tells me that my grain runs this direction. Now if I needed to cut a piece of 12 by 12 in order to make my card base, I would want to know which way the grain runs, because if I'm going to want to fold my card this direction, I'm going to have more trouble folding it because I'll be going against the grain. So I find that easy way, and then I cut at 5.5 inches that way, and I will be folding parallel to the grain. So understanding how to work with paper grain can really help enhance your paper crafting skills. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you would like more tips, inspiration, and tutorials, be sure to visit me at www.stampingmadly.com. I'll see you there.